Welcome back to CodyCrafted. Today, we test the Badlands off-road jack. Let's see what she do.
Click that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you would like more content, follow social media at CodyCrafted on Instagram.
Hey y'all, welcome back to CodyCrafted. Today, we do an unboxing and a test of the Harbor Freight Badlands off-road jack, aka the Poor Eagle. As you can see, this is fresh off the truck. My local store is a little smaller, so they didn't get one quite as soon as everybody else did. So I know these have been out for about 2 weeks now. All right, as you can tell, I have not opened it. Let's see what it's all about. Instructions, wheels, upper jack pad. Looks like this is the booster assembly, a little lift assembly. We got some tools and some clips, a couple of bolts. This guy is gonna go in that guy. So checking out the wheels, first impression, it's heavy. It is all plastic, not really squishy at all. There's just like you can get your fingernail on it, but it's not rubbery per se. Bearing looks like it's a 6003 on the front. The rear looks like they're probably the same bearing. Spins nicely. Got a little bit of tick, 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 I'm feeling. Yeah, you feel just a little bit of notchiness in the bearing. You're not going to use these high speed though, so you know, obviously probably doesn't matter. You're not really going to wear the bearing out before you wear the wheel out. The wheels are, let's see, nice and round, so that's cool. They're heavy. All right, so moving on to the jack extender. Obviously, this piece is made out of steel. This piece also made out of steel. Bolts are chrome plated, but steel, not stainless. They are captured, so they've got a oversized thread on the outside. You don't have to worry about losing these bolts because they are kind of a specialty piece of hardware. I do see 2 sets of pinholes, so you can orient the extender straight on, or you can cock it this way so it doesn't have the little raised pads touching and you're on the rubber. So that's handy. It's a nice little added feature. These are fairly heavy. If you're anything like us at our shop, occasionally you come into weird circumstances where you really need to just kind of make something to work. This is certainly not something you want to lift a vehicle with. But if you found yourself in a situation where you did need to make some type of adapter, let's check the dimensions on all this. So the ID of this guy is like 188. So 188 on the outside is going to be kind of weird. That's like a 1 7/8. So that's not super handy. The outside diameter of it, you could get away with putting a piece of 2 1/4 over the top of it, 2 1/4 on the inside of your pipe. On this leg, well, you get lucky. You can put a piece of 1 1/2 inside it. So that's handy. So what I've got here is a piece of 1 3/4 and a piece of 1.5. These are just a couple of scraps out of the drop bin. It does look like if you needed to make this taller for something funky, you could get away with it. The 1 3/4, it's a little sloppy, so I definitely wouldn't recommend that. But one thing I've already thought of is this is the axle cradle from Swag Off-Road. We're big fans of Swag Off-Road. If you don't know those guys, you need to check them out. So one thing you might be able to get away with, something along these lines, and you'll probably need to turn down a piece of 2 inch in order to get this to fit. But you could weld that on there, and that would be a really handy way to jack something up directly on the axle. Probably a handy little tip, something to keep in mind. This thing's pretty stout, I would say. Should be good in vertical loading. The welds look great. Definitely a robot weld. This thing is pretty solid. It is almost 4/10 of an inch thick, so 390 which is going to be over 3/8. And top of this is formed, and also same deal, robotic weld. So looking good. The holes are chamfered. There's no burrs on the inside. Same deal here. The holes have been, these look to be laser cut. I don't really see any chamfering on them, but that shouldn't be an issue. This is where you would fight it as you're putting the assembly together. So threads are pretty clean. A little bit of burr on the bottom down here, but all in all, a handy little bit of kit. All right, so upon initial inspection, powder coat finish looks really good. I don't really see any nicks or anything. The Badlands logo here and here appears to be like laser etched through the powder coat, so the aluminum is visible underneath. That's pretty cool. All right, so of course we got aluminum frame, aluminum, call this the yoke, and a bunch of steel and stainless. Looks like all the Allens are stainless. The big center pivot has a stainless hardware, but the pivot itself is mild steel. Those appear to be stainless also. Front axle, mild steel here. Nice pivoting jack pad with a pretty good sized rubber cover on it. That thing's probably over a quarter, maybe pushing 3/8 of an inch thick. Let's see how thick these aluminum sides are. 11.5 millimeters here, and same here. So about a little over 11 millimeters thick, 7/16. So that's nice. That's beefy. Handles, those are also aluminum. Well, that's cool. Let's see how well this handle works. She's not the lightest, but it can be picked up without too much of an issue. Put the height extender on here for looks. Self-registers in the center. That's handy. Looks like the bolts thread in nicely. So that's good, that's good. One little thing to make note right here. There is a little rubber block that keeps the handle flat, or the yoke flat, for shipping. And I've seen this on lots of jacks before. I have already seen people talking about this bar was bent, and I think it's because they went ahead and just put the handle in and yanked on it. So don't do that. This holds this flat so that the box is smaller. All right, so we got our jack handle. This is nice. It's also aluminum. Both pieces are, and there is a steel insert here with a roll pin. All in all, I've had a bunch of jacks from Harbor Freight, and I've been really impressed with them. They hold up really well. We use them here in the shop all the time. So I'll tell you what, no wonder people have had trouble with that. That thing is in there. You don't need this. There's no reason to keep that. Okay, so one cool feature that is noted on the outside of the packaging, and I have seen other reviewers discuss, is this latch right here that locks the handle in position, which is really cool because that allows you to pick up one end or wheelie it to be able to pivot it around. What do you say we make sure it goes up before we... Feels good, feels just about like most double plunger jacks. Goes up quick. I like that. Nobody wants to sit around and wait on a jack. All right, so down inside we've got chrome plated hardware, a lot of grease on the seal, so that's nice. There appears to be a serviceable pin in this pivot point here, but it is well lubricated inside, so that's handy. Another thing I hadn't noticed before is it's already got, down in the bottom, there's already a dirt skid, so that's handy. So if you are off in soft mud and whatnot, That way if the wheels start sinking, you've got the surface area. And this skid goes, it's the full length. So it goes all the way from here, all the way to back here. So you've got the full weight of it on that. And I can tell you in the past, that is a feature I would have liked to have had, because there's been times when I've had to pull stuff that, oh, it's been sitting in the field for 30 years. And, you know, we got to take a piece of steel with us, or a piece of plywood that gets blown apart in order to get somebody's car jacked up to put some tires on it or something. So we can winch it out of a field. All right, so there's something that I hadn't noticed before is, yes, the threads are captured, but they thread into this trunnion area, so then it doesn't spin anymore. That's a helpful bit of information. That's something I haven't seen anybody discuss up to this point. So you can see here, the Allen wrench comes right here and it's captured. It actually takes a little bit of force to get that out of there. Seems like it shouldn't be something that would pop out, but you just push the pin and it slides right out. Cool thing about this, has a ball end on the long side. So it makes it easier to get in here without having to go 1, 2, 1, 2, because that would be annoying. The other thing you could do is just pull this out of your way and then run it down accordingly. So that locks down nice. The threads appear to be, yep, all the way through. And there's actually a little casting around them to reinforce the threaded area. So that's pretty cool. And this piece also is aluminum. So it looks like everything's basically 6, 8, and 10, which are common sizes. Not a lot of people have a 10mm Allen just laying around, but they give you one, so that's cool. All right, so good on the engineering team for proper shank on the axle, front and rear, because you're able to snug down this bolt without putting any undue load on the bearings. And there is just, I mean, the slightest bit of play in that. So the washer retains the bearing, but doesn't crush it. So the lock nut for the wheel is 3/4 or a 19, which is handy because especially if you're a UTV racer or you've got aftermarket lug nuts on your truck, that is a really common size that you're going to already have in your rig. Because there may come a time and a place, depending upon where you are and what you're doing, where you need to actually take the wheels off of it and just use the dirt skid. If you ever find yourself in a position where you do have to pull the wheels off, you're going to gain yourself just a fuzz over 2 inches, which may be the difference in being able to get the car off the ground or not, especially if you have a broken wheel, a broken ball joint, something along those lines, something serious. So initial impression, retail on this jack is $299. So for 300 bucks, it's not a super small investment, especially if it's something you're going to be adding to your already existing rig and you have an option. But for me, in my truck, that option is a 20-ton bottle jack. And that certainly does not offer me the versatility that something like this would. A 20-ton bottle jack and a piece of 2x6 goes a long way, until it doesn't. So it does look like it holds the extension in place. They give us a couple little detents. This guy actually threads in so that it doesn't rattle and it's locked down securely. And you got this little stainless clip that cam overs. Can you run the jack with that stowed, or does something get in the way? Well, that's nice. It'll go all the way to full height without having to remove the adapter. So if you don't need it, you can keep it locked in so that you don't lose it. Because when you're on the side of the trail, sometimes especially if things are frantic, sometimes you're gonna be taking this off and setting it to the side, and then you're gonna load up all your junk in your truck and drive away. So not having to move it, big bonus point right there. All right, let's check the weight. All right, 72.5 pounds. It's not light. that's for sure. For comparison, let me grab a high lift. This is the 48-inch high lift. We are at 29 pounds, 6 ounces. So you are over twice the weight of a high lift. So for comparison, the jacks that I keep in my truck, usually either a 12 or 20 ton bottle jack, obviously a lot lighter. You're looking at 14.5 pounds for a 12 ton. You're looking at about 18.5 pounds for a 20 ton. This is the 1.5 ton hybrid aluminum and steel racing jack. You're looking at 30 pounds, 13 ounces. So definitely half the weight of that one. And then our workhorse here at the shop. This is the long reach 3 ton Daytona that sees daily use at 101 3/4 pounds. This is a 3 ton jack. This is a 3 ton jack. For me, I mean, given the choice, this one's the one going in the truck over this one. But the question is, what's right for you and your rig? So we need to run all these up to max height and take a look and see what's going to work best, especially for you guys with long travel and UTVs. Okay, so this is nearly every jack we have here at the shop. 3 ton long reach, which is the tallest one that you can buy for a floor jack in the shop. Obviously our new Badlands. The 1.5 ton, this was an emergency jack. It is high enough to get a tire off the ground on my Super Duty, but that's it. You can't touch the frame with it. 12 ton bottle jack, 20 ton bottle jack, and the high lift. Now the high lift I pretty much only use for trailers because none of my vehicles currently have points for a high lift. The most important thing to remember about a farm style jack is it's the one that'll break your jaw. If you're gonna mess with one of these, know what you're doing. The flip side to that is it's also the only jack that can be used as a winch. So keep that in mind. They are not invaluable by any stretch of the imagination, but they are very dangerous. Make sure you know what you're doing. You guys can see the height on everything. I can tell you for sure that the new 3 ton Badlands will reach the frame on my Super Duty on 37s. So if I had to mess with a shock on the side of the road, side of the trail, and be able to get the frame separated from the axle, we would be able to do that with it. None of these other jacks are going to offer that opportunity. So if you're a hardcore off-roader, or if you are a hardcore overlander, something to keep in mind. Now, you guys can find the heights on everything listed on the website for all these products and everything else out there. That information is clearly available. But I think given just initial impressions and looking at what's available to me at this point, it's a no-brainer for the Badlands. I bought this with my own money in order to make this review and to have one for here, because there are times when we have to stack adapters on top of the 3 ton in order to be able to reach it. One other handy little tidbit that we keep around the shop are these Daystar jack extensions. They've got a slot in them, so if you're lifting on a pinch weld on a car, it's super handy. They make them in 2 different sizes. This is the bigger, I have the smaller one too. They're the same height, it's just the base is different sizes. That still doesn't get you to here. And I use this thing all the time, a lot, in order to get things up, to be able to do welding, to be able to do maintenance for long travel, and doing suspension installations. So having this height available to you for this kind of budget, because I have looked for the tallest floor jack on the market, and there is basically nothing else available for less than $1,000 that'll go as tall as this one will. All right, so our first test, so let's roll it across the gravel. So one of the most common things we run into around here is maybe needing to lift a trailer up. So say our trailer needs to get up. Say we got a flat tire on the trailer and it's out here in the gravel or out in the grass. And away we go. 1, 3 pumps, and we're off the ground. I'll tell you guys, this part alone just being able to drag the thing across the grass when you do need it, man, that's handier than a pocket on a shirt. All right, so say you broke a ball joint, say you broke a wheel, and you got to move, and you're not on flat enough ground to be able to work on it, or you got to get out of a mud hole to do it. Let's see what happens. For me, one of the true tests is, can we get the frame most of the way up in order to get the wheel off? We know we can slide the thing under there without the additional height adapter and jack the tire up to get it off of there. That's nothing special. But my truck has a Carly kit on the front with an extended king shock. So what I want to know is, can I max out the shock? And it's easy to do this in the driveway. Let me be clear. But what if we're out on the road, out on the trail? What if a customer calls me? That's cool. And that tells me that king shock is all the way out, so that if I did have to pull that shock off, say we broke a shaft from hitting something or whatever, and we had to go to the auto parts store and just buy a regular shock to throw on, this would let me get home. And doing this without this height of a jack would not only take a very long time, but would be very unsafe. So I think for that alone, a jack like this, whether it's this one or the Pro Eagle, is absolutely worth the money. Now, in comparison between the two, I really can't fairly make that comparison because I don't have one and I haven't ever used one. They do come highly recommended, but that said, they also appear to be made overseas. If Pro Eagle was made in the US, would it be worth double the money? I think to me, yeah. But do I trust the brand for this type of application? Based on my experience with multiple jacks over multiple years, I would say so. That said, for the price, for the experience I've had with these products, I would say it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. Having broken stuff on the trail and been stuck in the mud and had to stack rocks and stack bottle jacks on top of 2x6s and 2x4s and stuff, I think it would save you a lot of time because it never fails. You never break on a bright sunny day like today, where it's nice and it's pretty and the weather's good and it's 65 degrees and you got 3 hours till the sun goes down. It never happens. It's always cold, it's always wet, it's always raining, it's snowing, your wife's giving birth to your third kid, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Nothing ever goes right when it goes wrong. So in my opinion, anything that makes that easier is a worthwhile investment. Much like an onboard air system, much like a helmet when you're riding dirt bikes, much like a good set of moto boots. Anything cheaper than a trip to the hospital is probably money well spent. So in my opinion, I think it's gonna be hard to go wrong with one of these. All right, so you've heard my 2 cents. Now jump down in the comments and give me yours. Do your best bleep bloop thing down there. If you can think of an application where this may not be the best tool for you or something to add to your existing arsenal, let me know. I want to hear about it because I'm always looking for better equipment for me, for my customers, and for you guys, so I can put out solid information and not just opinions and tearing stuff up. All right, guys, if you like what we did on this one, be sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, tell your friends about it. We sure appreciate you. Check us out on Patreon if you really like what we do. Links to a lot of the products we talked about are down below in the description. Thank you again. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.